Welcome to today's episode of Make Today Mammoth. My name is Dallas Hardcastle. I'm so glad to be your host here today. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about how 80/20 will allow you to either make extra millions of dollars in your business, depending on how tightly you are paying attention to this rule, or how it almost could have cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars just because of one webinar, and if we had missed some of the data that it was clearly showing us. Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode. I am so glad that you have decided to invest some time and to join us. My name is Dallas Hardcastle. If this is your first time with us, thank you so much. We appreciate you making time to stop by and to check us out. If you are a returning listener, thank you very, very much. If you haven't already done so, if you would like to go and give us a 5-star review, we would very much appreciate it. And if you'd like to leave a comment, that would be awesome as well. If you haven't done so and you would like to consider even subscribing, we would love it so very much. The reason we ask for these things is because, bottom line, it allows us to bump up into the algorithms, and that means that other people that are looking for help, looking for message, looking for a way to be able to come motivated, inspired, looking for that information that can allow them to be able to succeed in doing better in their business, it will give them a better opportunity to be able to find us here and to be able to provide them with the help with our free podcast. So thank you very much for doing that. Without any further ado, let's get it started. Today's episode, how we almost could have had hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost opportunity because of a single webinar, and how we were able to look at the data that could have caused a huge loss in income and in profits for us. So I don't think this is going to be a particularly long episode today, but if you've heard of 80/20, I'm sure you have Pareto's principle, the good old, 20% of the people are going to perform 80% of the work or the output. 80% of the people are going to perform 80% of or 20% of the work or the output. This is not just a rule, my friends. I promise you, this is a law. This is a law. It is as irrefutable as gravity. You will find this in business organizations. You will find this in outputs. You will find this from roadways to continents to GDP in different countries. You will find this across all industries, all marketplaces. It is absolutely a law. And what this law was telling us is that we needed to pay attention to where all of traffic was coming from for a webinar that we had coming up. So we were going out and we were doing some really good promoting for this webinar, and we wanted to get this baby filled up because we had some really, really, really good training that we wanted to share, helping coaches and consultants to be able to double sales very, very quickly. Even in a 60-day period of time, having coaches increase over 373%. So really, really good stuff, right? So we wanted to make sure that our audience was there listening to it. So we're working, we're doing. We have these 5 main channels that we're using. Okay, there's these 5 channels that we're working on. And these are the areas that we wanted to essentially kind of test. And what you're going to hear in this story is when I talk about 80/20, you may have heard me in the past talking about something power of ones. These are essentially derivatives of one another, meaning that we're wanting to make sure that if we're going to go out and exert this effort into these multiple areas, so multiple traffic sources like we were doing, that we want to be able to know what is performing in what way. So initially, when we began getting the data in, we were seeing these registrations. Oh, wow, this is really, really cool. We're having over 400 people, get registered for our webinar. Great. This is going to have a really good crowd, registration, and then the number of people that we get to show up. And then at the end of this, we get to offer some really amazing help to really change their lives. So just great stuff, right? But here's the thing. The number of business owners, coaches, and consultants that are out there working really, really hard. And we hear it's such a sliding scale, right? You hear these sayings, so they can become these just like kind of platitudes, work hard, work smart, blah, blah. So all this stuff gets all mixed up. Working hard and working smart kind of go hand in hand. You do both of them at certain times One is required more at sometimes, one is required more at other time, but this is really where the rubber hits the road. Is if you're out working hard and working hard and working hard, there's a whole lot of really hard working people out there that are struggling or broke. And that usually comes from they are working so hard, but they're working hard in many areas unnecessarily. They're focusing on a bunch of traffic sources unnecessarily. They're focusing on a bunch of marketing mechanisms unnecessarily, different avatars unnecessarily, different offers unnecessarily. What do I mean unnecessarily? I mean that 80-20 is going to tell us that the vast majority of things that we're doing are not going to be performing as well as the best thing. So when we have 100 salespeople in our organization, 20% are going to be producing about 80% of all of the revenue, 80%, the other 20%. When you get into that 20%, you can look at the 20% within the 20%, and you can find out that 4% are going to be producing, again, the lion's share of all of the production. So 4 out of 100 salespeople are going to be, in this case, because you're then required to multiply 80 times 80. So if we're multiplying the 20 times the 20%, which gives us the 4%. Now we need to do the 80% times the 80%, which gives us 64%, which tells us that 4%, those 4 salespeople are going to be producing approximately 64%, almost 2/3 of the entire company's revenues. So as a business owner, as a coach or consultant, working hard is not enough. Working hard is not enough. We are required to follow data. We're required to follow the numbers, the math, the metrics, to pay attention to these things. A story I told myself for far too many years was that I wasn't one of those guys, right? Like I was really good in math, but I mean, I didn't want to be a data guy. I didn't want to be a data analyst, right? I didn't want to do things where I was like, I didn't want to get into statistics. I didn't want to do that stuff. That wasn't me. I was good at math, but I didn't want to do, data analytics and all this kind of stuff. That was boring stuff to me. That was the stuff I avoided. So guess what? I was working really hard and things were happening, but I didn't know why they were happening most of the time. I didn't know what I was doing that was good, what I was doing that was bad. So I want to bring it home in a very real specific way for you. This webinar, we're out promoting the thing, and I don't have the exact numbers right in front of me, but I mean, these are really, really close. So we had about 445 people register for this last webinar. Actually, it was just earlier today. 445 people registered for the webinar. Here's what matters, though, is that fortunately we do know enough now to know that we were going to be sending this marketing out through 5 different traffic sources. So we sent these out in the 5 different traffic sources. So then when we started looking at each of the tracking links to see where did the registrations actually come from, it was shocking. So 80-20 is saying 80% for the 20%, right? Here's what is missed by a lot of people a lot of the time is they're always thinking, it's kind of this 2-dimensional thinking, right? It's only 80-20. It's only 80-20. They'll come up with something that's like, oh, this wasn't 80-20. This was 70-30, or this was 85-55, 85-15. It's the same thing. The power curve, if you look at that 80-20 power curve, that power curve may bend a little. It may get a little flatter here. It may get a little steeper here. But that 80-20, 85-15, 75-25, that power curve is always going to exist. You're going to have a lot of people down here at the very, very, very bottom that are doing very little, if anything. And then you're going to go up and you're going to start to see that bend, and then right around that 20%, and then 10, and then 5, and then 1, and up here at the very, very, very top are going to be those people that are performing at the very, very, very highest level. Again, like that one person can oftentimes be outperforming, dozens and dozens of people beneath him. Him or her. It's that big. So what was 80-20 in this case for our webinar? Well, out of approximately 450 people who registrations, and this, I'm almost positive on this number. I have these almost exactly right. About 387 came out of one channel. And then 48, 50 came from another. We had 1 come from one channel, 5 come from another channel, 1 come from another channel. So here's the punchline. The punchline is, out of 5 different traffic sources where we had almost 450 people register for our webinar, 91% came from one channel. Nope, 89%. Let me change that. 89% came from one channel, 11% came from the other 4 channels. Why does that matter? Not only do we now have evidence telling us where we want to put our efforts, but just think, if I would spend the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years trying to build my business, and my main thing was webinars. Just imagine this. And I am continually building out all 5 traffic sources, and I don't know where the traffic's coming from. Imagine if I'm building these out and I don't have the data. So just think, if not only am I dividing my efforts, right? Because 89% is coming from one channel, 11% from the other 4. So I'm not giving anything 100%, right? Obviously, because I'm dividing my efforts, because there's 5 of them. By definition, each one is getting 20% of my energy, focus, and attention. If I continue to do that, I'm never, ever going to be able to optimize that 89%. So if you were coaching me, what would you do? Would you keep doing those other 4 things because I'm getting that extra 11%? Or would you just put all of your energy and effort into that one thing and really grow that thing? Here's even a scarier thought. One that's happened in the past, might I say. This is the scariest thought. The scariest thought is, what if we didn't have our data? What if we didn't know where this traffic was coming from? What if we're just out there just spraying and praying, right? And we're getting these people and we're all excited about it. But at some point in time, we kind of fall off, or we get lazy, we get apathetic, and then we stop marketing to the channel that brought in 89%, or we don't market to it as heavily. I mean, can you imagine? Like, we're talking hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, literally. Like, this is not to be hyperbolic. Like, from our services and our what we do, like bringing in dozens of clients through webinars, that's many multiple 6 figures and into 7 figures annually. Imagine if we didn't know where these people are coming from, so that 89% traffic source that we were using, that we got apathetic, we got lazy, or we just cut it off altogether because we're like, oh, you know what else? We should go this route. We should go into this YouTube advertising. Or we should do that, or we should bounce over to TikTok, or we should really get loud on social, or we should really pour into doing affiliate stuff, or we should go influencer based. There's all of these different things we could have been doing. But meanwhile, the 89% channel, we could have just let that slide by. So friends, I'm going to end with this. Work hard. That's required, right? That's part of the game, but that's kind of the foundational piece. That's base level, right? If you're going to show up and not work hard, it's going to be tough, right? Going to be tough sledding. But the work smart part is always allow yourself the opportunity to be able to test different things, but test it so that you can measure it. Measure it so that you can get your 80-20, or maybe 85-15, or maybe 89-11. And now you can look at it and say, gosh, you know what? We were testing 5 things, but one of them is blowing away the other 4. So why are we investing effort 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%? Why are we investing that 80% of our time and energy into getting that 11% return? when we could invest 100% of our energy in that 89% and really grow that thing. Instead of it being 450, what if that's all we do? So we can get to 500, 1,000, 2,000 registrations for a webinar. Imagine that, right? Like, it's life-changing, but we need to know what the data is, and we need to be able to follow it. So we're not just working hard, and we're not just sending people to pages, sending people to funnels, sending them to videos, downloads, letters, webinars, phone calls, fill in the blank, and we have no idea where they're coming from or how they got there. We need to know this data so that then the data is what's going to make you rich. The data is what's going to make you wealthy. I know very well the ads manager who runs all the ads for Grant Cardone. Let me say, he says unequivocally, everyone is focusing on all these, you got to have traffic, we got to have marketing, you got to have sales, and you got to have all these mechanisms in place. But the number one thing that you got to have, number one thing, is be meticulous at tracking your data. When you are meticulous tracking the data, you win because you know exactly what buttons to push, what dials to turn, how much to turn them, where to place that focus and that energy, and where you can ultimately really succeed. So friends, I hope this has been super helpful. Make sure you do that. Follow your data. Once again, thank you for joining us on today's episode of Make Today Mammoth. My name is Dallas Hardcastle, and as always, my friend, just make today mammoth, and we will look forward to talking to you again here very soon. Take care.